She discovered her millionaire husband's secret affair from a single strand of hair. What she did next left him shattered forever. I promise this will be the most unforgettable story of your life, so don't skip a single second. A jaw-dropping tale of a strong, smart, and fearless woman who will amaze you until the very last moment. Hi, my beautiful family. May the Almighty pour rivers of mercy into your soul, turning your pain into strength, your tears into diamonds, and your struggles into stepping stones toward greatness. May His boundless love surround you like a warm sunrise after the darkest night, and may every breath you take be blessed beyond measure. Amen. If you're here right now, comment present. If your heart beats with ours, comment I am with Mr. Peter. My family, your love is the light that keeps this home alive. And to those who just arrived, welcome to a place where stories touch hearts and change lives. But please, I ask you with all my heart, watch till the very end. Skipping breaks the soul of this channel, damages our name, and makes my sleepless nights of hard work feel like they meant nothing. Like, comment, and subscribe, because every single action you take is a brick that builds the home of this great family across the world. The way Jason Clarke kissed his wife in public made other men question their marriages, and other women question their choices. It was a Tuesday morning at the Meridian Financial Tower, where half the city's wealth changed hands daily. Deandra Dottin Clarke stepped out of the platinum elevator in her burgundy Versace suit, her natural hair styled in an elegant updo that emphasized her regal cheekbones. At 42, she moved with the confidence of a woman who had built an empire, not inherited one. The moment she appeared, the entire 40th floor seemed to shift toward her like flowers following the sun. Mrs. Clarke, the Beijing investors awaiting in Conference Room A, Amelia Cross, Jason's assistant, announced with barely concealed admiration. Everyone knew the Beijing deal was Deandra's baby. She'd learned Mandarin just to negotiate without translators, spent 6 months building relationships, and now stood to bring in the largest international partnership their firm had ever seen. But before Deandra could respond, the elevator chimed again. Jason Clarke emerged like he'd been choreographed by Hollywood itself. 6'2", silver threading through his dark hair in a way that suggested wisdom rather than age, his Tom Ford suit fitted to perfection. At 45, he still made hearts skip beats, but his eyes searched for only one person. "There's my queen," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, crossing the marble floor in 3 strides. His hands found her waist with practiced familiarity, and he kissed her like they were alone in their bedroom, not surrounded by 30 employees. "Jason," she laughed against his lips, her hands pressed against his chest in mock protest. "The Beijing team can wait 60 seconds while I kiss my wife good morning." He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes, his voice dropping to that intimate register that still made her stomach flutter after 20 years. "You left before dawn. I missed you. You were sleeping so peacefully," she murmured, her fingers straightening his tie. "And you know I wanted to review the contracts one more time." "Of course you did." His thumb traced her jawline with reverent tenderness. "My brilliant, unstoppable force of nature. Beijing doesn't stand a chance." The employees pretended to work, but everyone watched. This was the Jason and Deandra show, the daily reminder that real love existed. They'd built Clarke and Associates from a 2-person startup in their garage to a billion-dollar investment firm, and through it all, they'd remained desperately, publicly, unapologetically in love. "Mum, seriously? It's not even 9 a.m. Peter Clarke stood by the elevator, his lacrosse bag slung over his shoulder, trying to look disgusted, but failing to hide his smile. At 18, he was the perfect blend of both parents, his father's height and strong jaw, his mother's warm brown eyes and graceful movements. Columbia University's acceptance letter burned in his pocket, but he'd wanted to stop by the office before school, drawn by the same magnetic pull that brought half the city to Clarke and Associates. "Peter!" Deandra broke away from Jason to embrace her son. What are you doing here, baby? Wanted to steal Dad for breakfast, but I see he's busy marking his territory, Peter teased, accepting his father's firm handshake that turned into a hug. Smart men make their priorities clear, Jason said, his arm still around Deandra's waist. Speaking of which, how about we all have dinner tonight? That new place downtown. What's it called? Lumiere, Deandra supplied. The one with the 3-month waiting list. Had a table reserved since January, Jason winked, for my 2 favorite people in the world. Peter rolled his eyes, but his grin widened. You guys are disgusting, like scientifically impossible levels of disgusting. Just wait until you find your person, Deandra said, smoothing his collar. You'll understand. If I ever act like you two, please stage an intervention, Peter laughed, but his eyes were soft. His friends complained about their parents' cold marriages, their father's affairs, their mother's wine and Xanax dinners. But here were Jason and Deandra Clark, slow dancing in the kitchen while making breakfast, leaving love notes in each other's briefcases, still sneaking away for lunch dates like teenagers. Mr. Clark, your 9:30 is here, Amelia interrupted apologetically. Jason sighed dramatically. The burden of success. He kissed Deandra once more, quick but tender. Destroy Beijing, baby. Show them how we do it in New York. Always do, she said, her confidence blazing. As she walked toward the conference room, Jason called out, Deandra. She turned, eyebrow raised. I love you, ridiculously, embarrassingly, completely. The entire floor held its breath. Even after all these years, watching the Clarks was like watching a live performance of epic romance. I love you too, she said simply, but her eyes said volumes more. Peter groaned. I'm going to school before you two start reciting poetry. But as he left, he was smiling. His parents were proof that love could last, that marriage could be an adventure rather than a prison, that 2 people could build an empire and still look at each other like they held the secrets of the universe. That evening, Lumiere glowed with candlelight and soft jazz. Jason had bought out the entire restaurant, not to show off, but because he wanted to dance with his wife without worrying about other diners. They moved together on the small dance floor, Deandra's head on his shoulder, his hand spread across the small of her back. Remember our first dance? He murmured into her hair. That disaster of a club in Brooklyn. You stepped on my feet 17 times. 18, but who's counting? He spun her gently. You still said yes when I asked you out again? You were persistent, she smiled. Showing up at my law library every day with coffee. Best investment I ever made. $300 in lattes for a lifetime with you. Peter watched from their table, pretending to be absorbed in his phone, but actually capturing videos. His parents were relationship goals before the internet invented the term. When his girlfriend had cheated on him last year, it was his parents who helped him understand that real love waited for no one who didn't value it. You know what I love most about us? Deandra asked, as Jason dipped her dramatically. My devastating good looks, my brilliant financial mind, my exceptional taste in wives? She laughed, that rich, full sound that had captivated him 22 years ago. That we're still us, the same kids who ate ramen for 6 months to save for our first office, the same couple who painted our apartment at 3 a.m. because we couldn't afford contractors, just more successful versions. And better dancers, Jason added, executing a perfect turn. Marginally better, she corrected. They were interrupted by a chorus of "Happy Anniversary." The restaurant staff emerged with a cake, not their wedding anniversary, but the anniversary of their first date, January 14th. Jason remembered every milestone, celebrated every moment. 22 years since you agreed to give a cocky law student a chance, he said, loud enough for Peter to hear. Best risk I ever took, Deandra replied, kissing him as the staff applauded. Later, as they drove home in Jason's Bentley, Peter in the back seat arguing about music choices. Deandra studied her husband's profile. The streetlights painted gold across his features, and his hand rested on her thigh with casual possession. She thought about the Beijing deal closing tomorrow, about Peter's Columbia acceptance, about the new house in the Hamptons. Jason didn't know she'd bought him for his birthday. Life was perfect. Too perfect, maybe. But she pushed that whisper of worry away. They'd worked for this, fought for this, earned every moment of happiness through sweat and sacrifice and unwavering dedication to each other. "What are you thinking about?" Jason asked, catching her stare at a red light. "Just us, everything. How lucky we are." He brought her hand to his lips, kissing each knuckle with reverent attention. "Luck had nothing to do with it, baby. We chose each other. Every day for 20 years, we chose each other." "And tomorrow?" she asked, their old ritual. "I'll choose you tomorrow too, and every tomorrow after that." Peter pretended to gag in the back seat, but his eyes were misty. His parents were the real deal in a world full of filters and fake happiness. The Clarks didn't just love each other. They liked each other, respected each other, built each other up in ways that made everyone around them believe in possibility. As they pulled into their circular driveway, the mansion lit up like a jewel box. Deandra felt that familiar surge of gratitude. From a studio apartment in Queens to this, they'd climbed every mountain together. "Home," Jason said, but he was looking at her, not the house. "Home," she agreed, understanding perfectly. They were Jason and Deandra Clark. Untouchable, unbreakable, undeniably, impossibly, forever in love. The city would talk about them for years to come, but never quite the way they expected. Chapter 2. The Strand of Betrayal. Saturday afternoon sunlight had a way of exposing things that darkness tried to hide, and on this particular Saturday it would reveal the crack that would shatter an empire. Deandra stood in her marble kitchen, humming Stevie Wonder while preparing Jason's favorite meal, her grandmother's secret recipe jambalaya that had taken 3 generations to perfect. The house felt different on Saturdays, lighter somehow, freed from the weight of conference calls and contracts. Peter was at lacrosse practice. Jason was in his home office finishing the Singapore presentation, and she had 3 blessed hours to just be Deandra, not Mrs. Clark, not the co-CEO, just a woman cooking for the man she loved. The jambalaya simmered, filling the house with the scent of andouille sausage and Holy Trinity vegetables. She'd learned to cook from her grandmother in New Orleans, standing on a wooden stool to reach the counter, absorbing lessons about love and life along with recipes. "The way to keep a man," her grandmother had said, stirring roux with ancient precision, "isn't through his stomach, it's through showing him you care enough to feed his soul." 20 years later, Deandra still cooked Jason's favorite meals from scratch, even though they could afford a dozen private chefs. It was her meditation, her love language, her way of staying connected to the girl from the 9th Ward who'd clawed her way to Harvard Law on scholarships and sheer determination. She plated the jambalaya with architectural precision, the way Jason liked it, rice molded in a perfect mound, jambalaya ladled around it like a moat, fresh parsley scattered like green snow. The French bread was warm, the butter softened to spreading consistency, the sweet tea brewing in her grandmother's crystal pitcher that had somehow survived Hurricane Katrina and a cross-country move. Balancing the tray with practiced ease, she climbed the curved staircase to Jason's office. The door was slightly open, unusual for him during work time. She could hear his voice, low and professional, probably on a call with Singapore. She'd wait, let him finish, then surprise him with lunch and maybe convince him to take a break. There was that new documentary about Warren Buffett they'd been meaning to watch, but the office was empty. His leather chair was turned toward the window, papers scattered across his mahogany desk in uncharacteristic disorder. The Singapore presentation glowed on his 3-monitor setup, but Jason was nowhere to be seen. His coffee sat cold, a film forming on its surface, suggesting he'd been gone for a while. "Jason!" she called, setting the tray on his desk. "Baby, where are you?" The ensuite bathroom door was closed, but no sound came from within. Maybe he'd gone to their bedroom, but that didn't explain the voice she'd heard. She moved to straighten his papers. Jason hated disorder, said it clouded his thinking when she saw it. A silk scarf draped over his chair like a confession. Her mess, from the pattern, but not one of hers. She had an extensive collection, each one catalogued in her memory, most of them gifts from Jason for various occasions. This one was coral and gold, a pattern she'd never seen, and it reeked of perfume. Something young and aggressive, all vanilla and synthetic musk, nothing like her signature Joe Malone wood sage and sea salt. Her hand trembled as she lifted the scarf, and that's when she saw it. One single strand of hair, long and golden blonde, caught in the silk fibers like evidence at a crime scene. Deandra's hair was black, had always been black, would always be black. She'd never dyed it, considering her natural color a connection to her ancestors, a declaration of identity in boardrooms full of people who expected her to conform. The hair caught the light, mocking her with its foreignness. She held it up, studying it with the same intensity she brought to contract negotiations. It was fine, expensively maintained, the kind of hair that required weekly salon visits and professional colorists, the kind of hair that belonged to someone who had time for such maintenance because they didn't run a billion-dollar company. Her mind, trained by 20 years of business strategy, immediately began cataloging evidence. Jason's late nights, increasing over the past 6 months. The new cologne she'd noticed but hadn't mentioned. The way he'd started taking calls in his car rather than his office. The weekend conferences that hadn't appeared on the company calendar. "No," she said aloud, her voice steady despite the earthquake in her chest. "Not Jason. Not us." But the hair twisted in the sunlight, undeniable and damning. She heard footsteps in the hallway and quickly pocketed the hair, draping the scarf back over the chair. Jason appeared in the doorway, freshly showered, wearing the Harvard Law sweatshirt she'd bought him for Christmas. "Baby, is that jambalaya I smell?" His face lit up with what looked like genuine delight. "You didn't have to. Where were you?" The question came out sharper than intended. "Shower. The Singapore call got intense. Needed to clear my head." He crossed to her, reaching for a kiss, but she turned slightly, his lips landing on her cheek instead of her mouth. If he noticed, he didn't show it. "This looks incredible. You spoil me." She watched him eat, studying him with new eyes. Was that a scratch on his neck, or just irritation from shaving? Why was his wedding ring sitting by his computer instead of on his finger? When had he started using a different body wash? "You okay?" Jason asked between bites. "You're not eating." "Not hungry. Big breakfast." The lie came easily, surprising her. "More for me, then." He grinned, that boyish smile that had conquered her heart in a Cambridge coffee shop. "God, your grandmother would be proud. This is perfect, Dee. Dee." Only Jason called her that, had since their third date when he'd declared Deandra too formal for how he felt about her. The nickname now felt like another woman's name, belonging to someone naive enough to believe in forever. "I should check on the Beijing contracts," she said, standing abruptly. "On Saturday? Come on, sit with me. We never get lazy Saturdays anymore." He caught her hand, thumb rubbing her palm in their secret language. 3 rubs meant, "I love you," a code they'd developed during boring board meetings. She counted. 1, 2, 3. "I'll be right back," she managed, extracting her hand. In their bedroom, she locked the door and pulled out the hair again. Such a small thing to destroy, 20 years. She walked to her vanity, comparing it to her own hair in the mirror. The contrast was stark. The stranger's hair pale and lifeless despite its golden color, while her own hair caught light like black diamonds. Her phone buzzed. Jason texting from down the hall. Missing you already. Movie tonight? Your choice, even if it's one of those period dramas that makes me cry. She stared at the message, then at the hair, then at their wedding photo on the nightstand. They looked so young, so certain, so untouchable. Jason in his rented tux, her in her grandmother's altered wedding dress, both of them laughing at something Peter's father had said. Peter, who was just a hope then, a dream they whispered about in the dark. Another text, I love you, Dee, ridiculously, embarrassingly, completely. Their morning ritual, now afternoon poison. She typed back, love you too. But she didn't mean it, couldn't mean it. Not with another woman's hair in her hand and her husband's betrayal taking shape like a tumor she'd ignored too long. Deandra Clark, who'd graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law, who'd built a billion-dollar empire from nothing, who'd raised a son while conquering corporate America, stood in her bedroom holding evidence of her husband's affair and made a decision. She wouldn't cry, not yet. She wouldn't confront him, not yet. She wouldn't break, not ever. Instead, she walked to her closet, to the safe hidden behind her winter coats, and placed the hair in an envelope, sealing it with the kind of precision she brought to hostile takeovers. Evidence had to be preserved, facts had to be gathered, strategy had to be developed. Because if Jason Clark had forgotten who he'd married, if he'd mistaken her love for weakness, if he thought she was the kind of woman who would collapse at the first sign of betrayal, he was about to receive an education. She returned to his office, smile perfectly in place. Movie sounds perfect, baby, but I pick. And yes, it's going to be Pride and Prejudice. The 6-hour version? He groaned theatrically. Is there any other? She kissed his forehead, inhaling. There it was, beneath his cologne and shampoo, that foreign perfume, subtle but undeniable, once you knew to look for it. You sure you're okay? Jason asked, catching her hand again. You seem different. Just thinking about Beijing. You know how I get before a big closing. My brilliant wife. He pulled her into his lap, nuzzling her neck. How did I get so lucky? Just lucky, I guess, she said, her voice steady as steel while her heart prepared for war. That night, as they watched Colin Firth emerge from the lake for the 100th time, Jason's head in her lap while she played with his hair, Deandra plotted. Every laugh was calculated, every touch measured, every word weighed for future use. The funny thing about betrayal, she thought as Jason dozed against her thigh, was that it didn't kill love immediately. Love died slowly, poisoned by each lie, each deception, each moment of false intimacy. She could feel hers dying now, cell by cell, memory by memory, leaving behind something harder, sharper, infinitely more dangerous. I love you, Jason mumbled in his sleep, turning to press his face against her stomach. I know, she whispered, her fingers still in his hair, gentle as the executioner's touch. That's what's going to make this so much worse. Chapter 3. The Perfect Mask. Monday morning arrived dressed in deception, and Deandra wore her mask like Versace, flawlessly fitted and impossibly expensive. Good morning, my love, she whispered against Jason's ear, her lips brushing his skin with practiced intimacy. She'd been awake since 4, standing at their bedroom window watching the city wake up, planning every word, every gesture, every breath of this performance. Now, at 6:30, she slipped into character like she was walking onto a Broadway stage. Jason stirred, his arm automatically reaching for her, pulling her against his chest. Morning, beautiful, you're up early. Couldn't sleep, too excited about Beijing closing today. The lie tasted like copper pennies, but she delivered it with enthusiasm. I made your coffee. Ethiopian blend, 2 sugars, oat milk. His eyes opened fully, surprised. You haven't made my coffee in months. I've been neglecting you. She traced patterns on his chest, each touch a small betrayal of her own. Work has been consuming me, but I realized something this weekend. None of it matters without us. D. His voice carried emotion she couldn't decode anymore. Guilt, love, both. You could never neglect me. We're partners, remember? In everything. Partners. The word almost broke her mask, but she held firm. I want to be better. For you. For us. She kissed him then, the kind of kiss that used to come naturally, now requiring every ounce of her theatrical ability. Shower with me. They hadn't showered together in 3 months. She'd been keeping track even before finding the hair, she realized now. Jason's eagerness was almost pathetic, following her into their marble bathroom like a puppy offered a treat. She undressed slowly, watching his eyes track her movements. At 42, her body still commanded attention. Hours with her trainer and geneticist-designed meal plans ensured that. But now she wondered, was he comparing her to someone else? Did that blonde have younger skin, perkier breasts, a stomach that hadn't carried his child? You're so beautiful, he breathed, pulling her under the rainfall showerhead. Sometimes I can't believe you're real. Very real, she said, soaping his back with methodical care. Tell me about Singapore. How's the tech merger looking? As he talked, animated about acquisition strategies and market projections, she catalogued every detail. The scratch on his neck she'd noticed Saturday was fading. Definitely a scratch, not a shaving cut. His hip had a small bruise, fingerprint-sized. When had he become so comfortable with these marks? How long had she been blind? You're not listening, he said suddenly, turning to face her. I'm sorry. I was just appreciating you. She ran her hands down his chest, watching his pupils dilate. Sometimes I forget to just look at you. Really look at you. Dee, what's going on? You've been different since Saturday. For a moment, she considered confronting him. The water streaming down would hide her tears. The shower walls would contain their shouting. Peter wouldn't hear his world ending. But no. That would be ordinary. Expected. Weak. I had a dream, she said instead, improvising with the skill that had won her impossible cases. About losing you. It felt so real, Jason. You were just gone, and I realized I've been taking us for granted. Baby, no. He pulled her against him, water cascading over their joined bodies. I'm not going anywhere. Ever. You're stuck with me. The irony almost made her laugh. Instead, she buried her face in his neck, inhaling. There, beneath the soap and water, that perfume again. It clung to him like evidence he was too arrogant to hide. Promise me something, she said against his skin. If there was ever anyone else, you'd tell me. You'd respect me enough to tell me the truth. His body tensed for just a second. If she hadn't been pressed against him, she would have missed it. Deandra, where is this coming from? Just promise me. There's no one else. There could never be anyone else. He pulled back to look at her, water droplets on his eyelashes like tears he'd never shed. You're my entire world. And you're mine, she lied with Oscar-worthy conviction. They finished showering in silence, but she made sure to touch him frequently, little caresses that seemed like affection, but were really reconnaissance. No new marks, no unfamiliar scents. He was getting better at hiding, or maybe he'd taken the weekend off from his extracurricular activities. At breakfast, Peter noticed immediately. You guys are being weird. Weird how? Deandra asked, cutting her grapefruit with surgical precision. I don't know, extra coupley, like you're performing or something. Her son had always been too perceptive, even as a child calling out adult lies with ruthless accuracy. Your mom had a bad dream, Jason said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. Just reminded us not to take each other for granted. Right. Peter's eyes narrowed slightly, studying them both. Well, I'm staying at Lucas's tonight. Got that calculus project. On a Monday, Deandra asked. Due Wednesday. We're behind. He grabbed his keys, kissed her cheek, bumped fists with Jason. Try not to be too weird while I'm gone. After he left, the house felt cavernous. Jason moved to his office for early calls with Tokyo. Deandra sat at the kitchen island, staring at her phone, then made a decision. She called Sophia Hayes, her best friend since law school. Can you meet for lunch? I need to talk. Everything okay? Sophia's voice carried 20 years of friendship, able to detect emotional shifts like sonar. Just meet me, Alexander's, 1 o'clock. At the office, Deandra became a method actor's dream. She brought Jason coffee 3 times, each delivery accompanied by a kiss. She laughed at his jokes during the partner meeting. She backed his play on the controversial Mumbai expansion, even though she'd privately thought it was too risky. Everyone noticed. You two are extra adorable today, Benjamin Asher commented after the meeting. What's the occasion? Can't a woman appreciate her husband? Deandra asked, her arm around Jason's waist. After 20 years. Most of us are just trying not to commit murder, Benjamin laughed. But his own divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. His wife had gotten everything, including their dignity. We're not most people, Jason said, kissing her temple. Never have been. At lunch, Alexander's hummed with power brokers and affairs, both business and personal. Sophia was already waiting, her red power suit like armor against the world's attempts to underestimate her. Spill, she said without preamble. You look like you're about to either kill someone or have a breakdown. Deandra pulled out her phone, showed her the photo she'd taken of the hair against the scarf. Saturday. His office. Sophia studied it like evidence in a case they were building. Could be innocent, assistant, client, cleaning woman. It was on a Hermes scarf that isn't mine, drenched in perfume that isn't mine, in his private office where no one goes but me. Fuck! Sophia signaled the waiter for wine. Have you confronted him? Number, I'm being the perfect wife instead. This morning I made his coffee and seduced him in the shower. That's disturbing and brilliant. Why? Because I need to know everything first. How long, who she is, how far this goes. You can't win a war with partial intelligence. This isn't a war, Dee. It's your marriage. Same thing, apparently. The wine arrived. Deandra drank deep, feeling it burn. 20 years, Sophia. 20 years of building everything together. I picked him up from the hospital when his father died. He held my hand through 36 hours of labor with Peter. We signed our first $1 million deal on our anniversary. How does someone throw that away for hair that looks like it belongs on a Fox News anchor? Men are idiots, Sophia said simply. Even the smart ones, especially the smart ones. They think they deserve everything. The wife, the mistress, the empire, the adoration. Has he been different in other ways? We haven't had sex in 6 weeks. I thought it was just busy season. 6 weeks? Sophia's eyebrows rose. You two used to traumatize us with your inability to keep your hands off each other. I know, I should have seen it, but I trusted him, completely. What kind of fool does that make me? The kind who honors her vows, the kind who believes in love. That's not foolish, Dee. That's brave. Brave would be confronting him. This is something else. This is strategic. You're protecting yourself and Peter while you figure out your next move. Sophia leaned forward. What do you need? Information. A private investigator, maybe? I know someone. Discreet, thorough, expensive. She specializes in high-profile divorces. I don't know if I want a divorce. I don't know what I want, except I want to know why. Why wasn't I enough? What does she have that I don't? Stop that immediately. This isn't about you lacking anything. This is about Jason being a selfish asshole who forgot what he had. That evening, Deandra maintained her performance. She cooked dinner, seared duck with cherry reduction, his second favorite. She listened to him complain about a difficult client with sympathetic noises. She rubbed his shoulders while he reviewed contracts, feeling his muscles relax under her familiar touch. "You're amazing today," he said, catching her hand and kissing her palm. "Have I told you that? Tell me again. You're amazing, brilliant, beautiful, the best thing that ever happened to me." Each compliment felt like a slap wrapped in silk. How could he say these things while betraying her? How could he look at her with such apparent devotion while giving himself to someone else? "I want to do something special," she said suddenly. "Our anniversary is coming up, 20 years. I want to throw a party, invite everyone, clients, friends, family, show the world what we've built. That's 3 months away. These things take planning. I want it perfect. The St. Regis Ballroom, full orchestra, the works, a celebration of us. Whatever you want, baby, you know I can't say no to you." "Good, because I want to remind everyone, remind ourselves what Jason and Deandra Clark mean, what we represent." He pulled her into his lap, nuzzling her neck. "What do we represent? Power, success, love that conquers everything. I like that. Love that conquers everything." His hands started wandering, but she stood gracefully. "I should check on Peter's room, make sure he has clean sheets for when he gets back. He's 17. He can handle his own sheets. 18. And he's still my baby." In Peter's room, she sat on his bed and finally let her mask slip. His walls were covered with photos, family vacations, lacrosse victories, candid shots of her and Jason laughing at various events. In every picture they looked happy, real, eternal. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. "Investigator's name is Olivia Chen. She'll be in touch." No, wait. The user had said no Chen. Let her mind race through the names. Olivia something else. Olivia Cruz. Yes, that worked better. Deandra deleted the text and stood, mask sliding back into place. She had a part to play, a husband to fool, a truth to uncover. The perfect wife had become the perfect spy, and Jason Clark had no idea he was under investigation by the one person who knew him better than he knew himself. Chapter 4. Digital Shadows. Peter Clark had inherited his mother's instincts and his father's stubbornness, a combination that made him dangerously perceptive when something was wrong in his perfectly calibrated world. He'd lied about staying at Lucas's house. Instead, he sat in his car outside their home at midnight, watching his parents' bedroom light go off at exactly 10:47 p.m., 15 minutes earlier than usual. His mother had been different all day, her smiles too bright, her touches too deliberate, her laughter hitting frequencies that didn't match genuine joy. And his father. His father was acting like a man who'd won the lottery, but was afraid someone would check his ticket. Peter wasn't stupid. He'd grown up in Manhattan's elite circles, where affairs were as common as Botox, and everyone pretended not to notice when marriages imploded behind closed doors. But not his parents, never his parents. They were the ones who still slow danced in the kitchen, who whispered secrets that made each other laugh, who looked at each other like teenagers discovering love for the first time. Something had shifted, though. Saturday, specifically. His mother had been fine Saturday morning, humming while making breakfast, planning their week. But Saturday afternoon, she'd been different, contained. Like someone had replaced her with an identical stranger who knew all the right words, but none of the melodies. Tuesday morning, Peter came home earlier than expected, claiming he'd forgotten his lacrosse gear. Really, he wanted to observe, to confirm his suspicions that something was fracturing in the Clark family foundation. He found his mother in his father's office, standing at his desk with her phone out, taking pictures of documents. "Mom?" She didn't jump, didn't even flinch, just turned to him with that same too bright smile. "Peter, baby, I thought you had practice." "Forgot my gear." He stepped into the office, noting how she smoothly slipped her phone into her pocket. "What are you doing?" "Your father asked me to send him some contracts. He's at the downtown office." The lie was smooth, but Peter had inherited her ability to detect deception. "His car is in the garage." William picked him up. "They're golf networking with the Samsung executives." She moved toward him, straightening his collar with maternal efficiency. "How's the calculus project?" "Mom." He caught her hands, looking down at her. When had he gotten so tall? "What's going on?" For a moment, her mask slipped. He saw raw pain flash across her features, the kind of hurt that made him want to punch walls and protect her from whatever was causing it. Then it was gone, replaced by concern. "Nothing's wrong, baby. Why would you think—" "Because you're acting like Dad when he's hiding a bad quarter from the board. Because you made his coffee yesterday for the first time in months. Because you're taking pictures of his documents when he's not home." He squeezed her hands gently. "Mom, talk to me, please." She studied him for a long moment, this child she'd raised who wasn't a child anymore. 6 feet tall, broad shoulders from lacrosse, his father's strong jaw, but her eyes that saw too much, understood too much. "Not here," she said finally. "Drive with me." They took her Tesla, silent until they reached the marina where she and Jason used to walk when they were young and broke and desperately in love. She parked facing the water, boats bobbing like promises that could drift away with the tide. "Your father is having an affair." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Peter's hands clenched into fists, his whole body tensing for a fight that had no physical opponent. "You're wrong," he said automatically. "Dad wouldn't. He loves you. He loves us." She pulled out her phone, showed him the photo of the blonde hair against the scarf, explained about the perfume, the changes in behavior, the pieces of evidence accumulating like snowflakes before an avalanche. "I'll kill him," Peter said quietly, and the calm in his voice was more frightening than rage would have been. "I'll destroy him." "No." She turned to face him fully. "You'll do exactly what I tell you to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Mom, he's cheating on you, on us, on everything we are. And we're going to handle it strategically, not emotionally." She touched his face, this boy who was becoming a man in the worst possible way. "Your father taught us both that emotion is the enemy of good business. Well, this is business now. This is our family. Not anymore. Now it's a hostile takeover, and I need my best soldier." She studied him. "Can you do that? Can you help me without letting him know you know?" Peter was quiet for a long moment, staring at the water. "What do you need?" "Information. You're brilliant with computers, better than anyone I could hire. I need you to find out everything, who she is, how long it's been going on, where they meet, what he's spent. Everything." "That's illegal, Mom. Hacking into his accounts. His personal accounts are all joint. I have legal access to everything. I just need someone with the skills to dig deep." She paused. "If you can't do it, I understand. I'll hire someone, but I trust you more than any stranger." Peter laughed bitterly. "You trust me, but not Dad. How's that for irony?" "I trust you because you're mine, my blood, my bones, my baby. You came from me, not from him. That makes you the only person in this world I can absolutely believe in right now." That broke something in Peter. He saw his mother not as the invincible force who'd conquered corporate America, but as a woman betrayed by the person who'd promised to protect her heart. "I'll do it," he said, "but we do this my way. Safe, untraceable, thorough. Deal." That evening, while Jason attended a client dinner he'd sworn was legitimate, Peter set up his operation in the pool house. 3 laptops, encrypted connections, VPNs bouncing his signal through 6 countries. His mother sat beside him, watching him work with fascination and pride. "Start with his credit cards," she said. "The personal Amex he thinks I don't check." Peter's fingers flew across keyboards, code scrolling like digital rain. 3 charges at the Carlisle Hotel in the last 2 months. Day rates, Mom. Fucking day rates. Language, she said automatically, then laughed at the absurdity. Actually, you know what? Fuck him. Fuck Jason Clarke and his day rates. It was the first time Peter had ever heard his mother curse. It made her seem more human, more breakable, more real. There's more. Jewelry purchases. Cartier, Tiffany, Harry Winston. He pulled up receipts. None of this is in your jewelry box, is it? She looked at the receipts. A tennis bracelet worth $30,000. Diamond earrings for $45,000. A necklace that cost more than most people's cars. I haven't received jewelry from him in 6 months. Said we should be investing more, spending less. Bastard! Peter kept digging. Restaurant charges. Daniel per se, 11 Madison Park. Always lunch, always for 2, always on days you were traveling. Pull up my travel calendar. Let's cross-reference. They worked like partners in a heist, mother and son united against the man who'd betrayed them both. Every discovery was a knife twist, but also ammunition. Here, Peter said suddenly, Venmo transactions. He's stupid enough to use Venmo. He laughed incredulously. To someone named Scarlett. Scarlett Whitmore. Fucking seriously, she sounds like a romance novel character. Can you find her? Already on it? His screens filled with social media profiles, public records, photos. 28 years old, fashion marketing consultant, graduated from Parsons, lives in, oh, this is rich, lives in an apartment in Tribeca that costs $15,000 a month. Let me guess, Jason co-signed the lease. 6 months ago, right when you said things started changing. Peter pulled up photos from Scarlett's Instagram. Blonde, thin, conventionally beautiful in that way that required thousands of dollars in maintenance. She's nobody, Mom. She's every girl who comes to Manhattan thinking she'll marry rich. She's a stereotype. She's younger, Deandra said quietly. Unmarked by childbirth or board meetings or 20 years of building an empire. She's a parasite. Peter's voice was vicious. Look at her posts. Vague inspirational quotes about following your truth and love finding a way. Pictures of flowers with no sender shown. Expensive dinners with mysterious captions about feeling blessed. He's her sugar daddy. He's our father and your husband, and he's throwing it all away for someone who probably can't spell quarterly earnings. Peter suddenly slammed his laptop shut. I can't do this. I can't look at her anymore. Deandra pulled him into her arms, this son who was trying so hard to be strong for her. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry you have to see this. How can he do this? How can he come home to us, kiss you, tell me he's proud of me, and then go to her? His voice cracked. Everything he taught me about integrity and honor and commitment, it was all bullshit. It was real once. People change, Peter. Or maybe they just reveal who they always were. Mom, we have enough. Confront him. Divorce him. Take everything. Not yet. She pulled back, wiping his tears with her thumbs. I need more. I need to know if it's just her, or if there have been others. I need to know if he's hidden assets. I need to know exactly what I'm fighting. You're fighting Dad. The man who taught me to ride a bike and came to every lacrosse game and cried at your vow renewal 5 years ago. No, she said firmly. I'm fighting Jason Clarke, CEO. The man who hostile takeovered 3 companies last year and smiled while people lost their jobs. That's who he really is, Peter. I just forgot because he was good at being someone else with us. Peter nodded slowly, understanding dawning. What's the end game, Mom? The anniversary party. 3 months to gather everything, position everything, prepare everything. And then, in front of everyone who matters, I'm going to destroy him. That's cold. That's business. She stood, suddenly looking like the corporate warrior who'd made grown men cry in boardrooms. He wanted to play games. Fine. But he forgot who taught him how to win. Peter watched his mother transform before his eyes, from wounded wife to avenging angel. What about me? What do I do at this party? You stand with me, publicly, prominently, undeniably with me. He loses me, that's survivable in his mind. He loses you, that's a wound that won't heal. I was always going to choose you, Mom. I know, baby, but he doesn't know that. He thinks you worship him, that you'll forgive him anything because he's your hero. She laughed bitterly. He never understood that you got your loyalty from me, not him. Over the next 2 weeks, Peter became his mother's digital spy. He tracked Jason's every movement, every transaction, every communication he could access legally or through gray area methods he'd learned from YouTube tutorials and darknet forums. The picture that emerged was damning. The affair had been going on for 8 months. It started at a Fashion Week event Deandra had been too busy to attend. Scarlett had been hired to coordinate corporate sponsorships. Jason had taken her for drinks to discuss opportunities. The opportunities had apparently been extensive and horizontal. "Look at this," Peter said one evening, showing his mother an email thread he'd recovered from Jason's deleted items. "He's promising to leave you, telling her to be patient, that he needs to protect his assets first." Deandra read it with clinical detachment. "Forward everything to my lawyer. William Grayson needs to see this." "Mum, he's planning to hide money. Look, offshore accounts in the Caymans. He's been moving funds for months." "How much?" "50 million so far." She smiled then, sharp and dangerous. "Perfect. Wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy to hide marital assets. He just gave me everything I need." "You're enjoying this," Peter observed. "I'm surviving this. There's a difference." She looked at her son, this brilliant young man who'd become her partner in revenge. "When someone breaks your heart, you have 2 choices. Let it destroy you, or let it forge you into something harder. I'm choosing harder." "What about love? What about believing in happily ever after?" "Those are luxuries for people who haven't been betrayed by their soulmate." She touched his face gently. "But you still get to believe, baby. Don't let his failure steal your faith in love. Just choose better than I did." That night, Jason came home with roses, red like the blood Deandra wanted to draw. She accepted them with a smile, put them in water, and made love to him with a passion that confused him but delighted him too much to question. After, as he slept, she stood at their bedroom window, looking at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Scarlett Whitmore was probably waiting for him to text, to call, to promise again that he'd leave his wife soon. "Soon," Deandra whispered to the night. "Just not the way you think." Chapter 5. The Art of War. William Grayson's office occupied the entire 47th floor of a building that scraped the Manhattan sky like an accusation against heaven, and on this Thursday morning, it felt like a war room where empires went to die. "Deandra, what you're proposing isn't just divorce, it's complete annihilation." William set down the folder Peter had compiled, his weathered hands steady despite the explosive contents. At 63, he'd orchestrated some of the most brutal corporate divorces in New York history, but even he looked impressed by the thoroughness of the intelligence. "I don't want to wound him, William. I want to end him." Deandra sat in the leather chair like it was a throne, her burgundy suit the color of dried blood. "What are my options?" "Legally, you own 40% of the company outright. Jason owns 40%. The remaining 20% is divided among minor shareholders. If you can flip just 11% of those shareholders, you control the company. And personally, New York is an equitable distribution state. Given the evidence of his affair, the hidden assets, the wire fraud, you could take him for everything. The houses, the cars, the art collection. More importantly, with proof of financial malfeasance, he could face criminal charges. Could or will. That depends on how far you want to push this. Deandra stood, walking to the window. Below, the city churned with ambition and betrayal, millions of small dramas playing out while she orchestrated her grand finale. I spent 20 years building something with him. Not just the company, a life, a family, a legacy. He's turned all of that into a lie. She turned back to William. I want him to lose everything he values. The company, the reputation, the respect. The woman is irrelevant. She's just a symptom, not the disease. The disease being his belief that he's untouchable, that he can have everything, the devoted wife, the adoring son, the mistress, the empire, without consequences. She returned to her chair, crossing her legs with deliberate precision. I want consequences. William nodded slowly. Then we need to move carefully. First, secure your assets. Move everything you legally can into protected accounts. Second, start building relationships with those minority shareholders. Third, document everything he does from now until the party. The party. Deandra smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut glass. 3 months. Can we be ready? If you're willing to do what it takes, yes. I'm willing to do anything, even pretend you don't know, for 3 more months. William, I've been pretending for 2 weeks already. I make him breakfast, laugh at his jokes, make love to him when he reaches for me. I've become the greatest actress in New York, and he's too arrogant to notice he's watching a performance. That takes a toll, Deandra. The emotional labor is nothing compared to what's coming for him. She stood, gathering her purse. Start the paperwork, quietly. I want everything ready to file the moment the party ends. And if he suspects? If he tries to move first? He won't. Jason's fatal flaw has always been his ego. He thinks he's the smartest person in every room, that everyone else is playing checkers while he plays chess. She paused at the door. He forgot I taught him chess. That afternoon, Deandra met with the first of the minority shareholders. Charlotte Harrison owned 3% of Clark and Associates, inherited from her late husband, who'd been an early investor. She lived in a Fifth Avenue penthouse that looked like Versailles, had mated with a Bergdorf Goodman window display. Deandra, darling, Charlotte air-kissed her, diamonds glittering at her throat. To what do I owe this unexpected pleasure? I need your help, Charlotte, and I'm willing to make it worth your while. They sat in Charlotte's conservatory, surrounded by orchids that cost more than most people's rent. Deandra had dressed carefully for this meeting. Understated elegance that suggested power without desperation. I'm restructuring the company leadership, Deandra began, her tone conversational. Jason's been making unilateral decisions that put us at risk, the Mumbai expansion, for instance. That disaster? We're hemorrhaging money. Exactly. I have a better vision for the company's future, but I need shareholder support to implement it. Charlotte studied her over her teacup. 70 years of navigating Manhattan society, making her an expert at reading between lines. This wouldn't have anything to do with that blonde I saw him with at the Carlisle last month, would it? Deandra's smile didn't waver. I'm concerned with the company's future, not Jason's extracurricular activities. Of course you are, darling. Charlotte set down her cup with a decisive clink. I always liked you better anyway. Jason's charming, but you're the one with the brain. What do you need from me? Your proxy vote at the next board meeting, and your discretion until then. Done. On one condition, when you destroy him, and we both know you're going to destroy him, I want a front row seat. The anniversary party, 3 months. I'll wear my best pearls. Over the next weeks, Deandra conducted a masterclass in corporate warfare. She met with each minority shareholder individually, presenting carefully crafted arguments that mixed business logic with personal appeal. Benjamin Asher, still bitter from his own divorce, pledged his 4% immediately. Lucas Montgomery, who'd always resented Jason's condescending treatment, offered his 2% with glee. Even Amelia Cross, Jason's own assistant, quietly confirmed she owned 1%, a gift from Jason years ago that he'd forgotten about, and would support Deandra when the time came. Meanwhile, she maintained her performance at home. She became the perfect wife, so devoted that Jason actually grew suspicious of her kindness. "You're different," he said one evening, watching her cook dinner with the focus of a man trying to solve a puzzle. Happy, lighter somehow. "I've been seeing a therapist," she lied smoothly, stirring the marinara sauce. "Working on being more present, more grateful for what I have." "Therapy?" He laughed. "You always said therapy was for people who couldn't solve their own problems." "Maybe I realized I couldn't solve everything alone. Maybe I needed help remembering what matters." She turned to him, wooden spoon in hand. "You matter, Jason. We matter." He crossed to her, pulled her against him, kissed her with something that felt like desperation. "I love you," he whispered against her mouth. "God, Dee, I love you so much." "I know," she said, because saying it back was becoming harder each day. That night, while Jason slept, she met Peter in the pool house for their weekly intelligence briefing. He'd become sophisticated in his surveillance, using programs she didn't understand to track his father's every digital footprint. "He bought her a car," Peter said, showing her the BMW dealership invoice. "A fucking M4 convertible. Said it was a company car for a new executive." "There is no new executive." "I know. I checked payroll." Peter's jaw clenched. "He's getting sloppy, or maybe he just doesn't care about hiding anymore." "He cares. He's just drunk on the double life. The thrill of deception is part of the appeal." Deandra studied the invoice. "Add it to the file." "Mom, there's something else." Peter pulled up a text conversation. "He's taking her to the Hamptons house this weekend. Told you he has a conference in Boston." The Hamptons house, where they'd celebrated their anniversaries, where Peter had learned to swim, where they'd planted a garden together every spring. The violation of it, the audacity, took her breath away. "Change of plans," she said quietly. "We're going to the Hamptons this weekend." "Mum, no, you can't." "I'm not confronting him. I just want to see. I need to see them together, to understand what I'm fighting." That's masochistic. That's motivation. Saturday found them parked down the beach from their house, hidden behind the dunes. Deandra had binoculars. Peter had a camera with a telephoto lens. They looked like bird watchers, not a mother and son documenting betrayal. Jason's Bentley pulled up at 2 p.m. He got out first, then rounded the car to open the passenger door. Scarlett emerged like she was auditioning for a music video, sundress flowing, hair perfect, laugh tinkling across the salt air. "She's so young," Peter said quietly. Through the binoculars, Deandra watched Jason lead Scarlett into their house. Her house, the one she'd designed, decorated, filled with 20 years of memories. He was giving her a tour, pointing out features like a real estate agent, and Scarlett was clapping her hands with delight at each revelation. "He's showing her my life," Deandra said, "like it's a property he's planning to flip." They watched Jason and Scarlett walk on the beach holding hands, watched them kiss in the gazebo where Deandra and Jason had renewed their vows, watched them swim in the pool where Peter had his first birthday party. "I've seen enough," Deandra said, but Peter was still photographing, his face grim with purpose. "Evidence," he said, "for the lawyers." But Deandra knew it was more than that. He was documenting the death of his childhood, the murder of every happy memory in that house. On the drive home, they were silent until Peter suddenly pulled over, got out of the car, and vomited in the beach grass. Deandra held his shoulders, rubbed his back, remembered doing the same when he was small and had the flu. "I hate him," Peter said, wiping his mouth. "I fucking hate him." "I know, baby." "How can you stand it?" "Sleeping next to him, pretending everything's fine. Because in 10 weeks, I'm going to stand on a stage in front of everyone who matters to him, and I'm going to take everything. His company, his reputation, his pride, his future. And he'll know that I knew all along, that every kiss was calculation, every smile was strategy. She helped Peter back to the car. That's how I stand it. You're scary sometimes, Mom. Good. Jason forgot to be scared of me. That was his first mistake. That night, Jason came home from his Boston conference with stories about boring seminars and bad conference food. Deandra listened with apparent interest, even laughed at his impression of a pompous speaker. They watched a movie, her head on his shoulder, his fingers playing with her hair. I was thinking, he said suddenly, we should renew our vows for our 20th. Do it right this time. Big ceremony, all our friends. Show everyone that love can last. The irony was so thick she could choke on it. That sounds perfect. When? How about at the anniversary party? Kill two birds with one stone. I love it, she said, and meant it, because the poetry of destroying him at a vow renewal was too perfect to resist. I'll call the wedding planner tomorrow. You're amazing, you know that? Any other woman would have given up on me by now. I've been so distracted with work, so absent, but you just keep loving me. Till death do us part, she said, and let him interpret that however he wanted. Later, she stood in their bedroom looking at their wedding album. Such young faces, such honest joy, such faith in forever. She traced Jason's image with one finger, this man she'd loved with every cell of her being. You killed her, she whispered to the photograph. That girl who believed in you. You killed her with every lie, every betrayal, every moment you spent in another woman's arms. But from her ashes you created something else, something harder, something hungrier. She closed the album with the finality of a coffin lid. Something dangerous. Chapter 6. Moving the Pieces. The conference room at Clark & Associates had witnessed hostile takeovers worth billions, but on this Tuesday morning, it hosted a different kind of corporate warfare, one where the enemy sat at the head of the table, unknowingly surrounded. The quarterly projections are outstanding, Jason announced, his confidence filling the room like expensive cologne. We're up 18% from last year, and the Singapore merger is exceeding expectations. Deandra sat to his right, her usual seat for 20 years, taking notes with the dedication of a devoted partner. But her real attention was on the faces around the table. Benjamin Asher gave her an almost imperceptible nod. Charlotte Harrison's fingers tapped twice on the table, their agreed signal. Lucas Montgomery kept his expression neutral, but his eyes met hers with understanding. 11% secured, another 4% leaning her way. She needed just 5% more to control the company, and she had 2 months to get it. I want to propose something, Deandra said, her voice cutting through Jason's momentum. A restructuring of our voting protocols. Nothing major, just updating our bylaws to reflect modern governance standards. Jason barely looked up from his tablet. Whatever you think is best, darling. You handle the legal minutiae better than anyone. Several board members exchanged glances. Jason's dismissive attitude toward his wife's contributions had always rankled them, but now it seemed particularly foolish, given what they knew was coming. I'll have William draw up the proposals, she continued, referring to William Grayson, who sat at the far end, ostensibly as company counsel, but really as her strategic advisor. We can vote on them at the anniversary party. Make it a celebration of our evolution as a company. Mixing business with pleasure? Jason laughed. That's very unlike you, Dee. I'm full of surprises lately. After the meeting, she lingered as others filed out. Harrison's wife, Margaret, approached her quietly. 3%, Margaret whispered, pressing a folder into Deandra's hands. My husband doesn't know I own it. Inherited from my father, kept in my maiden name. It's yours when you need it. That made 14%. The math was becoming beautiful. That afternoon, Peter texted her, "Dad's at the Carlisle, room 1247. Deandra looked at her watch, 2:30 on a Tuesday. She had a 3 p.m. with the Morrison group Jason had claimed. She pulled up his calendar. There was indeed a Morrison meeting, but it was scheduled for tomorrow. Instead of rage, she felt something colder, calculation. She called Olivia Cruz, the private investigator Sophia had recommended. "I need photographs, professional quality, the Carlisle room 1247 for the next 2 hours. That's a quick turnaround. I'll pay triple your rate. I'm on my way." At 4 p.m., Deandra walked into the Carlisle herself, not to confront, but to establish her own presence. She met with Emma Rodriguez, the interior designer she'd hired to redo their Hamptons house, in the lobby bar. Visible, public, documented by the hotel's security cameras. "I want to gut the master bedroom," she told Emma, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Complete renovation. Nothing of the old design remains." "That's quite drastic. It's a beautiful room." "Beauty can hide rot. Better to tear it all down and start fresh." At 4:45 she saw them, Jason and Scarlett, emerging from the elevator. He was adjusting his tie, she was reapplying lipstick. They didn't see Deandra, tucked into a corner booth, but she saw everything. The casual intimacy of his hand on Scarlett's lower back, the way she laughed at something he whispered, the quick kiss before they parted ways. "Are you all right?" Emma asked, noticing her client's stillness. "Perfect," Deandra replied, raising her martini to her lips with a steady hand. "Absolutely perfect." That evening she played the devoted wife flawlessly. Jason came home with flowers, gilt roses she'd started calling them, and she arranged them in her grandmother's vase with apparent delight. "How was the Morrison meeting?" she asked over dinner. "Productive. I think we'll close the deal by Friday." "That's wonderful. You've worked so hard on that acquisition." He reached for her hand across the table. "I couldn't do any of this without you. You know that, right? You're my foundation." "Funny thing about foundations," she said, squeezing his fingers. "People forget they're there until they crack." "What made you think of that?" "Oh, just something I read about architectural integrity. How buildings that look solid can be completely compromised underneath, and no one notices until it's too late." "You and your metaphors," he laughed, missing the warning entirely. After dinner, Peter showed her his latest discovery in the pool house. He's incorporated a shell company, Clark Innovations, registered in Delaware, bank accounts in the Caymans. How much has he moved? 70 million total. But here's the interesting part. He's been buying property through it. Commercial real estate in Miami, Austin, Seattle, cities where we don't have offices. "He's planning to leave," Deandra said quietly, "start over with her somewhere else." "There's more. I hacked Scarlett's email. Peter, that's already done, Mum. No point in clutching pearls now." He pulled up the emails. "She's been looking at wedding venues, sending him pictures of rings. She thinks she's about to become the next Mrs. Clark." Deandra read through the emails, each one a testament to Scarlett's delusion. The girl actually believed Jason would leave his wife, abandon his son, destroy his company for her. "She's in for a surprise," Deandra murmured. "You almost feel bad for her," Peter said. I don't." She knew he was married, she saw the ring, heard him mention me, and chose to continue. She's not a victim, she's a volunteer. The next morning, Olivia Cruz delivered a USB drive to Deandra's office. The photographs were damning. Jason entering the hotel, Jason and Scarlett kissing in the hallway, them entering the room together, emerging 2 hours later. Time-stamped, high resolution, indisputable. "I also did some digging on the girl," Olivia said. "This isn't her first rodeo. She had an affair with Howard Morrison 3 years ago. Howard Morrison of the Morrison Group, the meeting Jason claimed to have. The same. He's the one who introduced them, apparently. Men passing around toys." The violation deepened, It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. Jason was following a script written by other mediocre men who thought they deserved applause for their predictability. That weekend, Deandra orchestrated something brilliant. She suggested a family weekend at the Hamptons' house, just the three of them, like old times. Jason agreed eagerly, perhaps relieved by her continued ignorance. What he didn't know was that she'd hired a cleaning crew for Saturday morning, the deep clean she'd mentioned wanting. They arrived at 8 a.m., industrial equipment and all. "I thought we were relaxing this weekend," Jason complained as workers trooped through. "Oh, I forgot to mention it. But don't worry, they'll focus on the guest areas. We'll have the master suite to ourselves." But the crew, under specific instructions, made the house uninhabitable for romance. Furniture covered in plastic, chemical smells everywhere, constant noise. Jason couldn't even text Scarlett without Deandra noticing, because she kept suggesting family activities, beach walks, board games, cooking together. "This is nice," Peter said that evening, the three of them around the dinner table, like how it used to be. "Before everything got so complicated," Jason agreed, not noticing the look between mother and son. "Complications are choices," Deandra said. "People choose to complicate their lives, then act surprised when it all tangles up." "Very philosophical tonight," Jason observed. "Just thinking about cause and effect. How every action has consequences, even if they take time to manifest. Like karma, like justice. Karma's just justice with patience." Sunday morning, while Jason jogged on the beach, Deandra and Peter planted new roses in the garden. They'd done this every spring since Peter was 5, but this felt different, like they were planting something else entirely. "The party's in 7 weeks," Peter said quietly, dirt under his fingernails. "You ready?" "I've been ready since I found that hair." "And after?" "What happens after you destroy him?" "We rebuild, you and me. We take the company in a new direction, create something better from the ashes." "What about love? Will you ever trust anyone again?" Deandra looked at her son, this young man who'd lost his innocence to his father's selfishness. "Maybe, but trust will be earned in increments, not given wholesale. I'll never again hand someone my complete heart and assume they'll handle it with care." "That's sad, Mom." "No, baby. That's smart." The sad part was believing in fairy tales at 42. Monday brought new challenges. Jason announced he wanted to be more involved in party planning. "I want to make a speech," he said over breakfast. "About us, about our journey, something memorable." "That would be perfect," Deandra agreed, imagining how his words would sound after her revelations. "And I want to invite some new people, business associates you haven't met yet." She knew exactly who these associates would include. "Of course, it's your party too." He kissed her goodbye with unusual tenderness. "I don't deserve you." "No," she said against his lips. "You don't." That afternoon, she met with the party planner, going over every detail. The St. Regis ballroom would be transformed into a wonderland of white roses and crystal. The orchestra would play their wedding song. The menu would feature dishes from their history, the pasta from their first date, the wine from their honeymoon, the cake from their wedding. "It sounds magical," the planner gushed. "A true celebration of love." "It will be unforgettable," Deandra agreed, fingering the USB drive in her pocket containing Olivia's photographs. "I guarantee no one will ever forget this party." She'd already arranged for the audiovisual team, telling them she was planning a surprise video tribute to Jason. They'd tested the ballroom's projection system, ensured every seat would have a clear view of the screens. "What about security?" the planner asked. "With so many high-profile guests." "Double the usual. I want everyone to feel secure." She smiled at her own joke. Security would indeed be important, but not for the reasons anyone expected. 5 weeks until showtime. 5 weeks to pretend, to perform, to perfect her final act. The pieces were in position, the board was set, and Jason Clarke had no idea he was about to be checkmated by the woman he'd taught to play. Chapter 7. The Mistress's Tale. The text from an unknown number arrived on a Wednesday morning while Deandra was reviewing contracts. I know about you. We should meet. S. Scarlett. The audacity of it made Deandra laugh out loud in her office, startling Amelia, who was delivering coffee. Good news? Amelia asked. Unexpected news, Deandra replied, already typing back. Bergdorf Goodman Cafe. 2 p.m. Come alone. She chose Bergdorf's deliberately neutral territory, where scenes couldn't be made without social consequences. She arrived early, selecting a table with a view of the entrance, ordering tea she wouldn't drink. Scarlett arrived 10 minutes late, trying for confidence but betraying nervousness in her quick steps and darting glances. Up close, without Instagram filters, she looked even younger. Pretty in that expensive, maintained way, but ultimately forgettable. She wore a Chanel suit that Deandra recognized. She'd seen the receipt in Jason's credit card statements. Mrs. Clarke, Scarlett said, sitting down uninvited. Ms. Whitmore. Deandra's voice was pleasant, controlled. You texted me. I thought it was time we talked. Woman to woman. How progressive of you. Deandra sipped her tea. Tell me, what exactly do you think we have to discuss? Jason. My husband. The words hung between them like a blade. Scarlett had the grace to flinch but recovered quickly. He's leaving you. Is he? He loves me. We're building a future together. Deandra studied the girl, and she was a girl despite being 28. There was something tragic about her certainty, like watching someone walk confidently toward a cliff edge. Tell me about this future, Deandra said. Paint me a picture. Scarlett brightened, mistaking curiosity for capitulation. We're moving to Miami. Jason's starting a new firm there, away from all this history. We'll have children. He wants to be a better father this time, more present. He said that? That he wants to be a better father? He says Peter's already grown, that he missed so much working all the time. He wants a do-over. The rage that Deandra had been controlling for weeks threatened to surface. Peter, their brilliant, loyal son, reduced to a practice run in Jason's mind. And you believe him, she said instead, voice neutral. I know you think I'm naive. I think you're 28. Deandra pulled out her phone, scrolled to a photo from 5 years ago. This was Jessica, 26, marketing coordinator. Jason was going to leave me for her too. Scarlett's face paled. And this, Deandra scrolled again, was Amber, 29, interior designer. She also got a Chanel suit and promises of Miami. You're lying. I'm educating. Deandra put her phone away. You're not special, Scarlett. You're a pattern. Every 5 years or so, Jason gets restless. He finds a younger woman who makes him feel powerful, promises her the world, then gets bored when reality intrudes. He's never left you before because I'm his empire. I'm not just his wife. I'm his business partner, his social standing, his reputation. I'm integrated into every aspect of his life in ways you can't even imagine. Deandra leaned forward. The house you visit in the Hamptons. I inherited it from my grandmother. The company you think he runs. I own 40% and control another 15% through proxies. The money he spends on you, half of it's mine. He has his own money. The offshore accounts. Deandra's smile was sharp. The ones in the Caymans? Through Clarke Innovations? Yes, I know about those too. Scarlett's confidence crumbled. How? Did you really think a man who's been married 20 years doesn't have patterns? That I wouldn't notice changes? That I'm some oblivious housewife who doesn't pay attention? Deandra signaled the waiter for the check. Here's what's going to happen. Jason will make you grand promises about your future. He might even believe them himself in the moment. But when push comes to shove, when it's time to actually leave, He'll find excuses. The timing isn't right. The market's too volatile. Peter needs him. You're just trying to scare me. I'm trying to save you. Deandra stood, dropping cash on the table. But you won't listen. They never do. So let me tell you something else. In 5 weeks, at our anniversary party, Jason's world is going to implode. You can either be clear of the blast radius or caught in it. Your choice. Is that a threat? It's a kindness. The last one you'll get from me. She left Scarlett sitting there, mascara starting to run, the Chanel suit suddenly looking like a costume. That evening, Jason was distracted at dinner, checking his phone repeatedly. Everything okay? Deandra asked. Just some personnel issues, nothing major. She knew exactly what those issues were. Peter had monitored Scarlett's phone, watched her send increasingly panicked texts to Jason about their meeting. She knows. Your wife knows everything. We need to talk, now. Jason, I'm scared. Pick up your phone. But Jason hadn't responded, probably trying to figure out his next move. You look tired, Deandra said, reaching across the table to touch his hand. You're working too hard. It's been a rough day. Want to talk about it? He studied her face, searching for something, knowledge, suspicion, anger. But Deandra had perfected her mask. She looked exactly like what he wanted to see, a devoted, oblivious wife. Just business stress. Nothing you need to worry about. I always worry about you. It's part of loving someone. D. He squeezed her hand. If something was wrong, really wrong, you'd tell me, right? Of course. We don't have secrets. The lie came so easily now, seasoned with just enough affection to be believable. That night, while Jason showered, his phone buzzed with another text from Scarlett. Deandra glanced at it. If you don't love me, just say so. She almost felt pity for the girl. Almost. The next morning, Deandra received a call from Charlotte Harrison. Darling, you'll never guess who called me. That little blonde thing Jason's been entertaining. Scarlett contacted you? Showed up at my charity luncheon, actually. Tried to pump me for information about you. The desperation was quite unbecoming. What did you tell her? That she was playing with fire and about to get burned. Also that her dress was inappropriate for a charity function. But that was just me being petty. You're a treasure, Charlotte. I know. By the way, I've convinced 2 more shareholders to support you. The Hendersons are appalled by Jason's behavior. That's another 3%. 17%. The number sang in Deandra's mind. Over the next 2 weeks, Scarlett became increasingly erratic. She showed up at the office, demanding to see Jason. Security turned her away, but not before several employees witnessed the scene. She called the house, hanging up when Deandra answered. She sent Jason gifts to the office. Desperate, obvious attempts to reclaim his attention. We need a restraining order, Jason said one evening, the irony completely lost on him. This woman is stalking me. What woman? Deandra asked innocently. A former consultant. She developed an inappropriate attachment. You know how these things happen. No, I don't. How do these things happen, Jason? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Unstable people misread professional interest as personal. I've asked legal to handle it. Poor girl. She must be heartbroken. She's delusional. Thinks we had some kind of relationship. And you didn't? Of course not. I would never... He stopped, perhaps realizing how easily lies could tangle. I love you. Only you. I know, Deandra said, the words ash in her mouth. Peter watched this performance with increasing anger. How can you stand him lying to your face? Because every lie is another nail in his coffin. He's building my case for me. 3 weeks before the party, Scarlett made her final fatal error. She sent an email to the entire board of directors, claiming Jason had promised to marry her, that Deandra was an obstacle to their happiness, that the company would be better under Jason's sole leadership. The board was horrified. Benjamin Asher called Deandra immediately. "This is insane. Do you want me to handle it?" Let Jason clean up his own mess. Jason came home that night, white-faced and shaking. "There's been a situation." "Oh." "A disturbed woman has been making false claims about me. She contacted the board with completely fabricated stories." "How disturbing? What kind of stories?" "That we were involved, that I was leaving you. Absolute fiction. The board must be concerned. They're supportive. They know I would never jeopardize our company or family for some—" He trailed off, unable to find words that wouldn't incriminate him. "For some young woman with delusions." "Exactly." "Well," Deandra said, pouring him a scotch, "I'm sure it will blow over. These things always do." But it wouldn't blow over. The email had done exactly what Deandra had hoped when she'd planted the seeds of doubt in Scarlett's mind. It had made Jason's affair a matter of corporate record, turned the board against him, and created a paper trail that would be devastating in court. That weekend she found Jason in his office, laptop open to real estate listings in Miami. "Planning a vacation?" she asked from the doorway. He slammed the laptop shut. "Just browsing. Thought maybe we could invest in a beach property." "I thought you hated Florida. Too humid, you always said." "People change." "Yes," she agreed, thinking of the man she'd married versus the stranger before her. "They certainly do." 2 weeks before the party, Scarlett made one last attempt. She showed up at Deandra's yoga class, tear-stained and desperate. "Please," she said, "I love him. You love the idea of him, the money, the status, the fairy tale of being chosen over the wife." Deandra rolled up her yoga mat with precise movements. "But ideas aren't reality, and the reality is that Jason Clarke is a narcissist who will destroy anyone who truly loves him." "You're still with him." "I'm still standing next to him. There's a difference." "Why warn me? Why not let me burn with him?" For the first time, Deandra felt genuine sympathy for the girl. "Because you're 28. You have time to recover from this, to find actual love with someone capable of it. I'm 42. My recovery looks different." "What does it look like?" "Come to the party. You'll see. He uninvited me, said it would be inappropriate. I'm inviting you. Consider it educational." Scarlett stared at her. "You're not what I expected." "No? What did you expect? Someone bitter, weak, pathetic." "I was all those things, for about a week. Then I remembered who I am." Deandra shouldered her gym bag. "I'm Deandra Clarke. I built an empire from nothing. I survived poverty, racism, sexism, and 20 years of marriage to a man who thinks he's God's gift. I am not bitter or weak or pathetic. I'm dangerous. And in 2 weeks, Jason's going to find out exactly how dangerous." She left Scarlett standing in the yoga studio, perhaps finally understanding that she'd been playing a game where she never knew the rules. 1 week before the party, Jason surprised Deandra with a necklace, not one of the pieces he'd bought for Scarlett, but something new, a diamond collar that cost more than most people's houses. "For the party," he said, clasping it around her neck. "I want everyone to see how treasured you are." "It's beautiful," she said, watching him in the mirror, "like a chain made of stars. You deserve stars. You deserve everything." "I'll get everything," she promised, and kissed him like she meant it. Chapter 8. Setting the Stage. 5 days before the anniversary party, Deandra stood in the St. Regis ballroom with her event coordinator, orchestrating what would be remembered as the most spectacular destruction of a marriage in Manhattan history. "The screens need to be larger," she said, pointing to the discrete monitors the hotel had installed. "I want them visible from every angle. No one should miss a moment of the tribute." "That's quite dramatic for an anniversary video," the coordinator observed. "My husband deserves drama. He's given me 20 years of it." The woman laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. Peter arrived with the technical team, 3 young men who specialized in corporate presentations but had no idea they were about to enable corporate assassination. "Mom, we need to test the system," Peter said, holding up a laptop. "Make sure everything syncs properly." They ran through the presentation 3 times. The lights would dim at exactly 9:47 p.m., the time they'd exchanged vows 20 years ago. The screens would illuminate simultaneously. The audio would be crystal clear, every word audible even in the furthest corners of the ballroom. "It's perfect," the lead technician said. "Whatever tribute you've planned, there won't be a dry eye in the house." "I guarantee it," Deandra agreed. That afternoon, she met with William Grayson for final preparations. "The divorce papers are ready," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "The criminal complaint for fraud is prepared. The board meeting is scheduled for Monday morning to vote on Jason's removal. Are you certain you want to do this so publicly? He humiliated me privately for months. Public seems fair. The media will be brutal. To him, not me. I'm the wronged wife who built the company. He's the cliché who destroyed everything for a younger woman." She signed where William indicated. "Besides, brutal is the point." "And Peter?" "Peter chose his side. He'll stand with me at the party, a united front against his father's betrayal." That's a heavy burden for an 18-year-old. Jason should have thought of that before he decided to have an affair. Peter stopped being a child the day he had to help his mother gather evidence of his father's infidelity. Thursday evening, Jason noticed the party preparations had intensified. Their home was full of flowers samples, menu cards, fabric swatches. "This seems elaborate even for us," he commented, examining a gold-embossed invitation. 20 years only happens once," Deandra replied, comparing 2 shades of white roses. "I want it perfect." "It will be. Everything you do is perfect." He pulled her into his arms. "Dance with me." "There's no music." "When has that stopped us?" They swayed in their living room, surrounded by party preparations, and for a moment Deandra remembered why she'd fallen in love with him. He could make ordinary moments feel like magic, convince you that you were the only person in his universe. "I love you," he whispered into her hair. "I know," she said, because saying it back had become impossible. "You never say it anymore, that you love me." She pulled back to look at him. "Do you need words, after 20 years? Sometimes words matter." "Then let me show you at the party, in front of everyone. Let me show the world exactly how I feel about you." He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like he was trying to reclaim something already lost. Friday brought a surprise. Scarlett appeared at Deandra's office, looking haggard. "I need to know," she said without preamble. "Are you really going to destroy him?" "Yes." "Why tell me? Why warn me?" "Because you're collateral damage, not the target. You fell for a performance, believed promises from someone incapable of keeping them. That makes you foolish, not evil." "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like a bomb explosion. Deandra felt the ground shift beneath her feet, all her careful plans suddenly unstable. "How far along?" 6 weeks. "Does Jason know?" "I told him yesterday. He offered to pay for an abortion, said it was bad timing, that we needed to wait until after the divorce." "There is no divorce. He was never leaving me." "I know that now." Scarlett's hand went to her stomach. "I know a lot of things now." Deandra studied the girl, young, frightened, facing single motherhood with a man who'd already shown his true colors. "What will you do?" "I don't know. I thought he'd be happy. He talked about wanting more children, starting over, doing it right this time." "He says what he needs to say to get what he wants. That's who Jason is." Deandra made a decision that surprised even her. "Keep the baby if you want. I'll make sure you're provided for in the divorce settlement." "Why would you do that?" because that child didn't choose any of this, and because Jason should face all the consequences of his actions, including the ones that will follow him for 18 years. You're not what I thought a wife would be like. I'm not a wife anymore. I'm a general planning a war. Deandra stood. The party's tomorrow. Come or don't. But if you come, be prepared. What you'll witness will be biblical. Saturday morning, party day. Deandra woke at dawn, not from anxiety, but from anticipation. She made breakfast for the family one last time. French toast, Jason's favorite, with fresh strawberries and maple syrup from their Vermont trip last fall. "You're in a good mood," Jason observed, watching her hum while cooking. "It's our anniversary party, 20 years of marriage, our son about to start Columbia, our company thriving. Why wouldn't I be happy?" Peter came downstairs, dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't been sleeping, she knew. The weight of what they were about to do was crushing him. "You okay, baby?" she asked quietly while Jason read the paper. "Just ready for it to be over," he muttered. "Tonight. After tonight, we start fresh." The hairdresser and makeup artist arrived at 2. Deandra had chosen her look carefully, elegant but powerful, beautiful but untouchable. Her dress was custom Valentino, black with gold threading that caught the light like armor. The diamond necklace Jason had given her completed the image, a woman dripping in her husband's guilty gifts. "You look like a queen," the makeup artist said. "Good. Queens are the most powerful pieces on the board." Jason emerged from his dressing room in his tuxedo, still handsome enough to make hearts skip. He'd had his hair cut, his shoes shined, his wedding ring polished. He looked like the perfect husband. "Wow," he said, seeing her. "You're breathtaking." "Save your breath," she said. "You'll need it for your speech." The drive to the St. Regis was silent, except for Peter texting furiously in the back seat. Final confirmations with the tech team, she knew. They arrived to find the ballroom transformed. Thousands of white roses created a Garden of Eden. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow patterns across the walls, and their wedding photo, young, hopeful, ignorant, dominated the entrance. Guests began arriving at 7. The city's elite, business moguls, society matrons, everyone who mattered in their world. Charlotte Harrison wore her promised pearls and a knowing smile. Benjamin Asher brought his new girlfriend, young enough to be his daughter, irony apparently lost on him. William Grayson stationed himself near the tech booth, ready to handle any legal emergencies. Scarlett arrived at 7:30, wearing a simple black dress, looking like she was attending a funeral. Perhaps she was. She came, Peter whispered to his mother. She needed to see, to understand, to believe. By 8, the party was in full swing. Jason held court, accepting congratulations, telling stories about their early days, playing the devoted husband with Oscar-worthy commitment. 20 years, he told a group of investors. 20 years and I love her more than the day we married. Deandra is my everything. She stood beside him, smile perfect, hand on his arm, playing her part, one last time. At 9:15, Jason clinked his champagne glass. The room quieted. "Friends, partners, family," he began, his voice carrying to every corner. "Thank you for joining us tonight. 20 years ago, I married a woman I barely deserved. Today I stand here still not deserving her, but grateful every day that she chose me." Scattered awes from the crowd. Deandra watched Scarlett's face crumble. "Deandra has been my partner in every sense. She built our company alongside me, raised our incredible son, and somehow managed to become more beautiful, more brilliant, more essential to my existence with each passing year." Peter made a sound of disgust, quickly covered by a cough. "They say successful marriages are built on trust, communication, and respect. I'd add another element, the ability to keep falling in love with the same person, over and over as you both evolve." Jason turned to her, taking her hand. "Deandra, you've evolved into something magnificent, and I fall in love with you anew every morning." The crowd applauded. Several people wiped away tears. "Before my brilliant wife shares her own thoughts," Jason continued, not knowing he was handing her the weapon for his execution, "I want to renew my vows, right here, right now." The crowd gasped with delight. This wasn't planned, or at least Jason thought it wasn't. "Deandra Clark," he said, dropping to one knee in a gesture that would have melted her heart months ago, "will you marry me again? Will you give me another 20 years to try to deserve you?" The room held its breath. Deandra looked down at him, this man who'd betrayed everything they'd built, who was performing intimacy while planning escape, who'd impregnated his mistress while pledging eternal love. "Yes," she said, and let him slip a new ring. She wondered if Scarlett had helped pick it onto her finger. "I'll give you exactly what you deserve." He stood, kissed her to thunderous applause, and whispered, "I love you so much." "I know exactly how much," she whispered back, and saw the first flicker of concern in his eyes. At 9:40, she took the microphone. The tech team moved into position. Peter stood straighter. William Grayson shifted closer to the exit, ready to handle the fallout. "Thank you all for being here," Deandra began, her voice strong and clear. 20 years is a long time, long enough to build an empire, long enough to raise a son, long enough to learn who someone really is. She looked directly at Jason. "I thought I'd share some memories tonight, moments that defined our marriage, the truth of who we are together and apart." She raised her champagne. "To truth." The crowd echoed the toast, not understanding they were about to witness an execution. "Peter," she said, "would you help me with something?" Her son stepped forward, laptop in hand, and suddenly Jason understood. His face went white, his hand reaching for her arm, but she stepped away gracefully. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said as the lights dimmed, "the true story of Jason and Deandra Clark." Chapter 9. The Anniversary. The ballroom lights dimmed to black at exactly 9:47 p.m., and 200 of New York's elite held their breath, expecting romance, about to witness revenge. The screens blazed to life, Jason and Deandra's wedding photo. Her voice, diamond-sharp, narrated, "20 years ago, I married Jason Clark, believing in forever. Tonight, you'll see what forever really looks like." Jason's champagne glass trembled. Scarlett at table 12 went corpse pale. "6 months ago," Deandra continued, spotlight making her black dress shimmer like liquid revenge, "everything changed." The screen, the Carlisle Hotel receipt, November 15th, room 1247. Gasps rippled like dominoes. More receipts cascaded, December 8th, December 22nd, January 10th, each date a nail in Jason's coffin. "Hotels were foreplay," Deandra said. "Here's the climax." Jewelry receipts flooded the screen. Cartier, $30,000. Tiffany, $45,000. Harry Winston, $60,000. "Who is she?" someone whispered. "Meet Scarlett Whitmore." The screens exploded with evidence. Scarlett's Instagram vanity. Jason entering hotels, them kissing. Their hands intertwined like a noose around his neck. Jason lurched toward Deandra. Peter blocked him. "Don't," Peter said, microphone catching his disgust. "But wait," Deandra smiled. "There's more." Financial documents appeared. Offshore accounts. Wire transfers. $70 million stolen. William Grayson stood. "FBI and IRS have been notified. Wire fraud charges filed." Jason collapsed into his chair. Deandra clicked her remote. Jason's voice filled the ballroom. "Baby, be patient. Once the money's secured, we're gone. Miami, fresh start. Deandra's boring anyway. 20 years of the same person would drive anyone crazy. You're my future. She's just obligation." "Obligation," Deandra repeated, savoring his destruction. 20 years, a son, an empire, reduced to obligation. New photos. Jason with Jessica, 2019. Amber, 2016. Melissa, 2014. Every few years, Jason needs fresh meat. Some girl pays for his midlife crisis. "Stop!" Jason erupted, face crimson. "Deandra, stop this! Did you stop when you were fucking her in our bed?" The profanity from composed Deandra Clark was atomic. "Scarlett visited me yesterday," she announced. Jason went white. "Tell them, Scarlett." Scarlett stood, shaking. "I'm pregnant." The room exploded. 6 weeks. He wanted me to abort it. "Bad timing," he said. Charlotte Harrison rose, pearls gleaming. "I motioned to remove Jason Clark as CEO immediately." "Seconded," Benjamin Asher called. "All in favor." Hands shot up. 63%. Total victory. "Motion carried," William announced. Jason stumbled. "You can't. This is my company." "Was," Deandra corrected. "Now it's mine." She raised her champagne. "To new beginnings." The crowd roared approval. "Deandra, please." Jason reached for her. She recoiled. "Don't touch me. Ever." 20 years. That you destroyed." She ripped off both wedding rings, dropped them in his champagne. "Give these to your next victim." "You planned this for months." 3 months. 3 months I smiled while you betrayed me. 3 months I gathered evidence while you gathered STDs. She leaned close, whispered loud enough for the microphone. "I played the perfect wife while you played the perfect fool." Peter stepped forward. "Every email, every text, every lie, I have them all. I helped destroy you. I chose mom. I chose honor. Everything you pretended to teach but never practiced. Peter, I'm your father. You're nothing. A sperm donor who betrayed everything." Peter took his mother's hand. "We're done." They walked away, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. Jason stood alone, screens still looping his betrayal, his empire in ashes. Charlotte intercepted them. "Magnificent, darling. Brutal, but magnificent." "Necessary," Deandra replied. In the car, Peter laughed bitterly. "He renewed his vows an hour before you destroyed him. Shakespearean. Shakespeare killed everyone. I just killed his future." "Mom, did we go too far?" "He went too far when he betrayed us. We just delivered consequences." At home, Deandra found Jason's morning note. "Can't wait for tonight. All my love, Jay." She burned it over the kitchen sink, watching his lies turn to ash. The phone rang. CNN, then the Times, then the Journal. She turned it off, poured wine, sat with Peter in their reclaimed home. 37 missed calls from him, Peter said. Let him scream into the void. Did he ever really love us? He loved the idea of us. The trophy family. She touched Peter's face. But real love? He's incapable. They watched the sunrise paint Manhattan gold. "We won," Peter said. "No," Deandra corrected. "We survived. That's better." Chapter 10. Queen's Gambit. Monday morning arrived wearing consequence like couture, and Deandra Dottin entered her empire like she was born to rule it. The 40th floor went cemetery silent. Everyone had seen the videos. Clark revenge was trending globally. The Post screamed, "Wife's revenge served colder than champagne." "Good morning," she announced. "The board meets at 9 to formalize my position as sole CEO. Until then, business as usual." "Mrs. Clark," Amelia stepped forward. "Mr. Clark keeps calling. Mr. Clark is unemployed. Direct him to legal." Her smile could cut glass. "You work for me now." In Jason's former office, now hers, every trace of him had been erased. Her Harvard law degree dominated the wall where his golf trophies once preened. The board meeting was theater. She presented her vision: ethical investments, women-led businesses, everything Jason had mocked as soft. "Motion to confirm Deandra Dottin as CEO and chairwoman," Charlotte announced. Unanimous. Mid-celebration, Amelia knocked urgently. "He's in the lobby." They heard Jason before seeing him. "This is my company." Deandra descended the stairs like a queen to execution. Jason looked destroyed, unshaven, wrinkled, aged a decade in 2 days. "We need to talk. We're talking, publicly. Your preference, remember? I love you." Someone actually laughed. "You love yourself," she corrected. "You love being admired, envied, desired. But me, you don't even know me. 20 years, that you destroyed." She descended another step. The worst part wasn't the affair. It was making Peter investigate his own father. "You turned our son into a detective in his parents' war." "Peter," Jason spotted him. "Son, please." Peter descended slowly, deliberately. "You taught me integrity matters, that family comes first, but those were just words to you." His voice was steel. "Mom didn't just expose your affair, she exposed who you really are. I'm your father, biologically. Fathers don't destroy families for sex. Fathers don't steal from their children's future." Peter took Deandra's hand. "You're nothing to me now." Jason crumbled. "You'll regret this." "The anger won't fade," Deandra interrupted. "It'll transform into indifference, into forgetting you exist." Security escorted him out as Scarlett walked in, fate's perfect timing. "I'm keeping the baby," Scarlett announced, "and suing for child support." "I'll testify if needed," Deandra said. Scarlett's eyes widened. "You'd help me? I'm helping a child who didn't ask for this mess." She studied the girl. "But we're not friends. You knew he was married. That makes you complicit." Back in her office, divorce papers waited, Jason contesting everything. "He's actually fighting?" Peter asked. "Let him. Every document adds evidence." She signed with flourish. "I have everything. The company, the properties, the respect. And you—" The week exploded in media chaos. Jason went on a podcast claiming victimhood. The internet destroyed him. Memes of his proposal then destruction went viral. Someone leaked his pathetic voicemails to Scarlett. Then, Thursday, Eleanor Clark, Jason's mother, called. "I'm ashamed of my son. I've transferred my 8% shares to you. You're more my daughter than he is my son now." That gave Deandra 51%. Total control. That evening, she and Peter ate sushi from containers, no pretense. "What now?" Peter asked. "We rebuild, better, without his cancer." Her phone buzzed. "Breaking news. Jason Clark arrested for wire fraud." "You knew," Peter said. "I hoped." "He's going to prison. 2 to 5 years. Minimum security for white-collar princes." She turned off the TV. "It's over." The next morning, she addressed the staff of newly renamed Dotton Enterprises. "We're not erasing the past. We're learning from it. This company will be built on transparency, integrity, and the radical idea that success doesn't require sacrificing your soul." Jason's lawyer called. "He'll give you everything, houses, company, custody. Just drop the criminal charges. Can't drop federal charges, but you could refuse to cooperate." "No." She hung up. That weekend, she and Peter reclaimed the Hamptons house, repainted, burned sage, planted new roses. "I love you, Mom," Peter said suddenly. "You're the strongest person I know." Monday brought the final decree. Divorce granted. The most one-sided settlement the judge had ever seen, but justified. Deandra Dottin was free. That night, alone in her bedroom, she looked in the mirror. 42. CEO. Mother. Survivor. "You did it," she told her reflection. "Not victory. Justice." Victory would have been Jason choosing fidelity. This was aftermath, rebuilding, becoming. Peter texted, "Proud to be your son." She smiled genuinely for the first time in months. She'd lost a husband but found herself, lost a marriage but gained an empire, lost innocence but gained wisdom. The ultimate revenge wasn't destruction, it was resurrection, becoming everything they said you couldn't be without them. The Queen had taken the king. Game over, new game beginning. Epilogue. 5 years later, Peter's wedding invitation arrived on gold cardstock. Her brilliant son, now 23, marrying Olivia, a contract lawyer who took no nonsense. "She's nothing like Dad," he'd said. "Honest, consistent, everything he pretended to be." During their mother-son dance, Peter whispered, "We made it. We did. Ever wonder about him?" Jason had served 3 years, now lived in Florida, paying child support for a daughter he'd never met. Number, he's a stranger who once lived in our house. David, Dr. David Okonkwo, her partner of 1 year, touched her shoulder. "Beautiful wedding," he said. "Beautiful beginning," she corrected. He pulled out a ring. "Simple, elegant. I'm not asking for complete trust, just to try, to build something real." "I'll think about it." But she smiled. Her phone buzzed. "Jason Clark arrested in Miami for investment fraud." She deleted it. He was a ghost story now. "You okay?" Peter asked. "Perfect," she said, meaning it. The victory wasn't destroying Jason. It was this: her son's happiness, her new love, her company thriving. The victory was becoming Deandra Dottin, not Jason's wife. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's resurrection. It's proving the only person you needed to save you was yourself. The end.